antimicrobial, antifungal, and antiparasitic IND and NDA applications, and she's also an active member on many agency committees. And then we have Ms. Judit Milstein. She joined CDER as a consumer safety officer back in 1999 in the Division of Anesthetic, Critical Care, and Addiction Drug Products. She then joined the Division of Anti-Infective Drug Products in 2001 as a Regulatory Health Project Manager. And she became a supervisor in the Division of Special Pathogen and Transplant Products in 2005, which is currently called the Division of Transplant and Ophthalmology Products. So welcome our speakers, please.
Judit and I have a long history of work together, probably over 18 years. So we're doing a little bit of a tandem presentation today. I'm going to be covering the content and format of your initial IND submission, so what that would look like. I know from Kevin's presentation earlier that a lot of you have actually already made an IND presentation or IND submission, so probably a lot of this information won't be unfamiliar to you, but hopefully you do learn something. And then Judith's going to take the second half of the presentation and let you know once we get your IND what happens to it in those first 30 days. So we're going to try and get through all of this. So again, my presentation is on the content and format of an initial IND submission, and you can find information on this in the regulations at 21 CFR 312.23. Here's my disclaimer. So I thought we'll start off with a little bit of an audience interactive. So I know a lot of you, again, have submitted these INDs before, but really recently, I think in April of this year, we've updated the 1571, which is the form that comes in with every application for an IND. So I want to see how many people that have submitted since that time point know which fields in this form have recently been added. So how many people think that it's field 6B? How many people think it's 7B? How many people think it's field 12? Okay, you guys are all doing good. So how about all the above? Okay. So all of the above is actually true, and I'm going to cover these as we move through the presentation today. Here's an idea of which fields those are. My screen's jumping all over, so I do apologize. So again, the requirements for content and format of an IND can be found in 312.23. And my presentation will be a little bit more of a regulatory twist because that's the area that I work in and what I would look for in your application when your application is submitted to us. Overview of the presentation. I've got a couple slides on that. What we would expect to see for content and format: cover letter, regulatory forms, table of contents, introductory statement, your investigational plan, investigator brochure, clinical protocols, and then your chemistry, non-clinical information, human experience if you have any at that stage, and then additional information. So we're going to go through all of these. This schematic is, I think, really helpful for people that maybe have submitted INDs in the past. It gives you an idea of moving to the common technical document where these pieces of information fit, and I just put it up here because I think it's a really good schematic to show you where the pieces now fit in the 5 modules that are required in the CTD format. We call this a CTD Triangle, and the triangle basically outlines for you where the middle pieces, modules 3, 4, and 5, and 2 are your common technical document, and then your first module, module 1, can vary depending on where you submit your application, and that's all of your administrative information. Another good example of the hierarchy, where your pieces fit. Sometimes I get a lot of questions about where do I put my submission in my application. We have a very good document on this, and it will tell you as new things come up for us where they get added into the hierarchy for your submission. So I have a link at the end, and I do encourage you to look at that to figure out where your pieces go, especially as you're into the electronic submission. So first module is your administrative information, and then summary information is 2, quality 3, and then so on 4 and 5 for non-clinical and clinical. So let's take a little look at the administrative information. So this is kind of an outline and a mini index of what you're going to be including in your administrative section. So first is your cover letter. It's usually a couple pages long, depending on maybe you've had a pre-IND meeting. There's some more information that you want to explain to us. Addressed to our division director. provides us with basic information on what we can expect to find in this submission, or if there's anything unique you want to call out to us, this would be the place to do that. It's always hard if there's information buried somewhere in the submission for us to find it later on in our review. So, do tell us all of your information up front in your cover letter, although the cover letter is actually not required for an IND submission. The 1571 is somewhat your cover letter for your submission and provides a lot of information to us, but we do appreciate a cover letter with your submissions as well. So we talk a little bit about the Form 1571. It's electronicized. It's kind of a fill-in-the-blank form now. Has a lot of information in it. Every time you submit after your initial submission, you're going to be required to submit a 1571 to us, so it's really good to become familiar with all the pieces of the 1571. It's your administrative information and the contents of your application, provides us with your sponsor information, contact information, etc. So we're going to look at a couple of the screens next, and they're going to be pieces that I pulled out from the 1571, which I think are important to highlight. So, of course, name of sponsor goes in number 1, and then name of drug in number 5. So for people, put in the name of the drug if it's a code name. Tell us as much information as you can about your drug, and also tell us what your dosage form is. This is one thing that I find gets missed a lot in the submission. So please, if oral could mean a lot of different things. It could be a tablet, a capsule, a suspension, So be a little more specific for us. It really helps us. All this information on the 1571 form gets loaded into our database, so the more accurate the information coming in, the more accurate your file is. Field 6B, this is one of the new fields, and this is a commercial and research, which Kevin actually talked a little bit about earlier today. One of the main reasons for this is we've moved to an electronic format, and if you're a commercial IND, you're going to be expected to be in electronic format, the electronic common technical document. Research can still be in paper, although we highly encourage you to submit electronically. The document room, if you're a commercial and you send it in paper, we'll notify you that your submission has not been accepted. So they've been doing that quite regularly over the last 2 weeks. So because they had announced that this was coming for a while. So again, it's just kind of a highlight of, Kevin covered this earlier. A commercial IND is a product that eventually is going to be commercialized, and a research, usually just for research, maybe for publication or something else. Field 7, this field is very new to all of this. It's the SNOMED CT terms code, and I've outlined for you here where you can go to find this information and how you can get this onto your form. This is very new to us, so bear with us as we make this change and update our database. And the idea behind this is so that we have more standardized terms in our database, because we might get an indication that says, for treatment of high blood pressure. It's really hard to search a database when you have various terms in there, so the idea is to get all the terms to be more consistent, helps with electronic medical records, etc. So this is very, very new to us. Section 11 is the submission, what your submission contains. For your original IND, it's going to be the first box you're going to check, but later on you may have a multiple of submissions, and you may need to check a number of boxes. So be diligent about doing that. It really helps us get your submission to the right reviewers when it comes into the agency, so we don't lose any time. Number 12, this is one of the other newer fields, and this is for combination products. Again, I've outlined for you the combination categories. If your application is not a combination product, then you're going to select the box for no, and you're not going to fill it in. But if you are, please select the appropriate box and fill that in on the form. Contents of the application, another really important piece, especially for an initial IND submission. Check off all the boxes that are applicable to your submission. This is one area that I highlight, and this is your contact information. And this is, we get a lot of errors in this area, and so make sure you put down for us who your authorized representative is. And if that person does not reside in the United States, then please list for us in number 24 who your regulatory contact will be, and then make sure you both sign the form. Form 3674 is your clinical trial certification form. On an initial submission, this is registration. You notify us that you've registered at clinicaltrials.gov. For original submissions, submit the form to us. There are appropriate boxes to check on that form that maybe this doesn't quite apply yet, but you're aware of it. And then as you move to your phase 2 or phase 3 studies, you're going to want to resubmit an updated form that lets us know you've registered and you've got your NCT number with that. The requirement is within 21 days of enrolling your first patient in your phase 2, 3 studies that you get this form updated. Investigational plan, general information on what do you plan to develop this drug for. Please provide us with some general information on that. Your investigator brochure, everything you pretty much know about the product at the point you submit this application. This is the investigator brochure that will go to your investigators at the investigator sites and gives them a really great snapshot of everything that is known about the product. Module, spend a whole lot of time on this. Later on in your modules, 3, 4, and 5 are all your really detailed information, and then so the summary information comes from that information, and it's something that I, as a regulatory person, would review when this application comes in to make sure all the pieces of the application are there before sending it out to our reviewers. And the same for the introductory and summary information. This is all really valuable information for us. Please be as comprehensive as you can. Again, I'm just highlighting what goes in the summary sections. Clinical overview, clinical summary, non-clinical, chemistry. Quality information, another very big part of a new IND submission. Tell us about your drug substance, where are you getting it from, how's it being manufactured, your drug product. Provide us with your certificates of analysis. If your study is going to use a placebo formulation, please let us know how that's being made. I've given you a link at the bottom, provides a lot of additional information on this very large chemistry section of your application, and you're also going to hear later on in the presentations very detailed information on both the chemistry and the non-clinical and clinical sections. Section number 4 is non-clinical. So this is all of your information on your animal studies. Could be drug disposition in your animals, your pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, your ADME studies. Provide us with all the information that you have up to that point on your animal studies, because this is really going to help us determine whether or not this product is ready to go into humans and whether or not any safety signals might have been identified. Any literature references that you may have, please provide us with that information too. Moving into your clinical studies section, you're going to provide us with your 1572s. This is for your investigators. They all need to sign these forms. You're going to tell us what protocol you're starting out with. Are you starting out with a phase 1 study, a phase 2 study, phase 3 study? And any clinical data that you have to date. Sometimes we have INDs that have not gone into man yet. They have no clinical data. If that's the case, then let us know that as well. Components for your clinical section. Again, your phases of development and your qualifications for your investigators. Information on your facilities and your IRBs. Any previous human experience. And then, again, if you know that safety's been identified for a particular issue, tell us how you plan to monitor for that risk. Tell us that up front so we can take a look at that. Here's gives you an idea of which studies would qualify for phase 1, which ones are going to be phase 2, and which ones are going to be phase 3. We see a lot of phase 2 studies coming in now, and not so much in the phase 3, but these are your much larger studies, more detailed, give us a lot of information moving forward. Your Form 1572, your investigator commitments. So they need any investigator participating in the study needs to fill this out and sign it. By signing this is their agreement to conduct the protocol as written, to obtain informed consent on their subjects, to assure us that they have institutional review board review, and that they're willing to adhere to all the record-keeping requirements and to report the adverse drug reactions to us as required by our regulations. So you'll have a little bit more on the safety in tomorrow's discussions. Previous human experience, again, anything that you have, if you have any testing that has been done maybe overseas or you find in the literature on your product, please provide that to us, and any letters of authorization or rights of reference that you might have that would go in this section as well. If your IND happens to be a drug for drug dependence or abuse potential, radioactive drugs, or you're developing a pediatric formulation, include this in this section as well. And if you have foreign references for us, please provide us with the English translation as well as the foreign reference. That's very helpful. And then a little bit, I know it was covered earlier, but just as a reminder that, research INDs can still be submitted in paper. Electronically is use the electronic common technical document. You can also submit on physical media, and it can come through our gateway submission, which I'll talk about in the next slide or two. Here's your address for people that don't have the address. I'm not a real techie person, so I suggest that if you have any questions on putting your application together, how to get through our gateway, formatting, things like that, I've provided a number of references. Our IT group is very helpful and can guide you in those areas. But I do recommend very early on, please get yourself, even if you're not planning to submit an IND, even if you have questions for us now, please get secure email. It's our only way to really communicate with you. People want to get courtesy copies of things from us. If you don't have secure email, we cannot provide them. So please go and get that set up. If you need to get a number assigned for your application, you're going to request it at CDER app number. Provide that information. And a new thing also with that is, make sure that you let them know whether or not you're going to be commercial or research. Otherwise, you're going to delay getting your number because they're going to come back and ask you for that information. So please include that when you request a number. General information on sponsor, indication, drug just needs to be provided to get that. And they won't provide that to you without a secure email, so please provide that. I have provided a lot of references for you. The agency's done a really nice job putting together a lot of information to help you guys. So please take the time. All these links I've checked, they all work. They're all live. Really a plethora of information for you. I think you'll find that visiting these sites will answer a lot of your questions when you put together your IND. Again, directions, electronic directions for filling out your forms, very, very helpful. Please take a look at them. I guess I'm about out of time, actually exactly out of time. So now that you've put together your IND and your IND has been submitted to us, I'm going to let Judit go over what happens to your IND as soon as we receive it. So thank you.
Very good, Maureen. Well, I hope that I can do in time-wise as good as Maureen did, because we needed to better this. But now that you have Maureen introduced you to how to put together the IND submission and the elements that we require, even the regulatory, I'm going to focus now on the black box and what happens behind the walls when your submission gets to our place and what do we do with it. We don't throw it away on the trash. It's not disappearing. And it's a time where we try to work on that all with our team. And it takes a lot of effort because we have only 30 days to make a determination if the IND is safe to proceed or if it's not. And the emphasis is put on the safety of the patients that are going to be involved in the research. So it's the most important time, and for that, let me emphasize, it's really relevant to have all the information we need because it's very time-consuming, and it's a lot of stress that puts together with our reviewers. As you have heard in the previous communications, and Maureen, as of May the 5th, all commercial INDs need to be submitted in electronic common technical document. The common technical document was presented in the previous slides. It has to be in electronic. Here, the limitation on the gigabytes. I'm not a techie. I'm just a paper and fax person. I'm learning. That our electronic submissions group will be able to explain you what are the size of the gigabytes or not. There are forms that you need to fill and has to be filled up, especially the 1571, that it needs to be completed. And for research INDs, we still accept them in paper. And however, we really recommend and would like that you can submit it in electronic format. What do I mean by electronic format? You can submit it in a CD, or you can submit it in a pen drive. It comes to our document room. They'll upload it in the electronic document room, and it's very helpful for the reviewers because a lot of the review work they do is cut and paste from the information you provided in their review to be able to substantiate the decision. The only thing is really nice if you can do that is if you can hyperlink or put bookmarks in a PDF format, and that is uploaded, and we get notification for that. So, the rise to CDER. And I'm talking specifically to CDER because that's my area of expertise. The first thing, anybody knows or have heard a word about DARTS? DARTS? Well, yes. This is our tracking system. Archiving, reporting, regulatory tracking system. For now, is the system we have to track and work with the INDs. And when it arrives, it comes to the chiefs. And I don't like chief, but that's the way they gave us the name. Chief Project Management Staff. We get a notification, and it says, okay, this is a new IND. What do we do with that? Does it belong to your division? Said, oh, yes, this is an indication that belongs to my division. But suddenly, there is an indication that does not. And here is part of what I'm asking, try to do sometimes the legwork before and communicate with us, because the division I work is the division of transplant and ophthalmology products. And we do transplant. We do only solid organ transplantation. We don't do stem cell transplant. So that has to go to another division. So if it comes to me, and let's assume that we have 30 calendar days, and the IND is submitted on Friday afternoon, and we have Saturday and Sunday that we usually don't read the emails, and Monday is a holiday, as might happen, and it comes to my division on Tuesday, I can say, okay, maybe I tackle it Tuesday because we look at it. So it will go to the other division on Tuesday, Wednesday. So the reviewer lost almost a week. So try to communicate with us. Give us a call. Pick up the phone. I have a product for this, and we'll try to connect you to the person that you need to go and make sure that you're submitted to the correct division. When it comes to my division, we need to, on an initial submission, we need to assign a review team. This is all the clinical, all the reviewers, discipline specific that will need to be involved. Clinical, CMC, clinical pharmacology. For the drugs that they look for antimicrobial or antiviral activity, we have some specific reviewers to do the clinical microbiology. And if you submit a product that has to be sterile, we need to consult to the people of microsterility. By the way, all the products for ophthalmological use has to be sterile by regulation. So automatically we get a reviewer for microsterility. That is not clinical micro, it's microsterility. And we have consults. In many instances, we need to consult another center if the product is for a combination product. We don't have the expertise in reviewing a device or how a light might work that needs to be irradiated in the eye. Sometimes the indication or the endpoint require us to consult with another division. You have a product that it's very typical that it's studying the antiviral properties in people who do, patients who undergo a kidney transplant. And we have a product who studies an antiviral properties for that. Now that goes to the division of antivirals because the endpoint is the antiviral activity. However, if in my division we receive an IND and if we say we're going to study the graft survival in patients who have Epstein virus in their body. So we don't have the expertise in antiviral. We consulted the division of antivirals and their expertise, but we have the expertise in the transplant and the graft survival. There's a lot of back work that goes there, but we more or less have it under control, more or less. Here comes the key. Within 30 days, our review team, we need to make a determination if the study is safe to proceed, the IND goes into effect, or if it's placed on clinical hold. And we're going to look later in my next slides what happened with the clinical hold. Just a pet peeve from the regulatory project management in CDER. INDs are not approved. If anybody calls me and says, is my IND approved? I cringe. We do not approve. We deem them safe to proceed. They goes into effect, that's the regulatory term. The only one who approves research is the IRB. And they approve research, not just the protocol, but all the other things that are attached to your research, advertising, and so on. So this is the most important thing. So most of the division have a meeting by day 25, 26, 27, just to make sure that we are on the same page. And if your IND is safe to proceed, hey, you're going. In many divisions, if you do not hear from us, it's good to go. And this is because the way it's written in the regs, no news is good news. There are some divisions who like and emphasize in writing the letters. I work for the Division of Transplant and Ophthalmology. The ophthalmology group doesn't issue safe to proceed letters. We don't call you, you're fine. But the Division of Transplant and Ophthalmology, the transplant section and clinical team likes to get involved. And because it's such a discipline that is really difficult to work, we try to provide you comments. We give you the letter safe to proceed. So it's a different way. Both of them are right. If you do not hear from us by day 30, pick up the phone to your project manager and talk to them. And we will let you know if it's safe. Most of the time, yes, because if not, we would have called you before. In case you have any question how we manage all this IND, here is a map. And we'll try to provide you, like Maureen did and my previous colleagues, as many opportunities for references so you can figure out where to find the information. So, in essence, this is the best. What do we do in the safety days? We try to make sure that we provide for the safety of the patients. This is the risk-benefit informed. This is the information you need to provide us. Are we covering the safety of the patients? Do you have all the information? Did you include in your study a criteria for individual stopping criteria? After how many adverse events are you going to stop the research? After how many patients demonstrating adverse events are you going to have stopping research? That is all information that needs to be included in the protocol. If you don't write it, we don't know about it. So try to be exhaustive. If you're going to give a drug that can cause problems, heart problems, and you have a crash cart next to you to work, write it in the protocol. It's there. A crash cart will be available in case we have an adverse event. It's better to be over extensive than less, because if not, we're going to call you and figure out where are you in that. In essence, the primary objective is to determine if the trial is conducted as is described in your protocol. It can be conducted without unreasonable risk for the subjects or patients. If you identified, 4 minutes, I need to hurry up. If you identify, that's good to have it there. If you identify in your protocol, in your non-clinical studies, some safety signals, that doesn't mean that you cannot go in clinical trials. It means that those safety signals will provide us a background how to monitor or to define the inclusion-exclusion criteria. There are certain areas where there's higher standard, but you need to, please, we can always control for those elements, figure out what you have in that areas. Unfortunately, your study is not safe to proceed, and we put you in clinical hold. As much as you don't like, an industry and sponsor don't like to be in clinical hold, the agency doesn't want to put people in clinical hold either. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth negotiation before we get to this point. Full clinical hold, all research stops. Partial clinical hold, it's part of it. There's certain population. There's some people who might not be able to do it. We recently had a case of, we discussed with the sponsor, we told them to enroll pediatric patients in the pre-IND meeting. Come with the IND, they provide the non-clinical information, and we see that the animals are falling asleep. And there is a lot of somnolence. And they say, well, you know, unfortunately, we will not be able to go in kids. It's not safe to go in kids. So the options are we put them in clinical hold, or we call the sponsor and tell them, okay, we rescind the request we made before. You can conduct the study. Do not include pediatric patients for now. And imagine that. Were they happy about that? Yes, of course. There's less risk for that. We asked them to do it. They didn't want to do it in the beginning. And we move forward. They modified the protocol. That IND and that protocol is safe to proceed. Protocols are safe in the IND. So this is the grounds for imposing clinical hold for phase 1 trial. I'll let you read for that. In essence, is this the safety of the patient. Let me tell you, from all the elements that are written in the regs, in my almost 20 years of experience, and I talked to Maureen, most of the time the INDs are placed on clinical hold when there is insufficient information to assess the risk to the subjects. All the other things, I never put an IND on hold because of clinical investigation not qualified, but it's written in the regs, and this is part of the reasonable element. Sometimes we need additional chemistry information to make sure that what we're giving to the patient is really what you are putting in your IND. INDs on clinical hold, When you have a clinical hold, a potential clinical hold will talk to you, will pick up the phone. And that's why it's so important in your 1571 to add the name of an alternative contact. If you submitted your IND and you said, now I can go on vacation, yes, go on vacation is not a problem. But we need to have somebody to call in order to be able to resolve it. The agency will try to call to you and figure out how we can resolve this issue. The division director is the person who will call you and tell you you're on clinical hold if it is a commercial IND. If it's an IND for research, probably the project manager will call and will document that. And in essence, we'll explain the reasons. And by day 30, you will receive notification on a letter stating that you are in clinical hold, the reasons, and how to resolve it. What items or elements you need to provide or address or revise in order to be able to get off the clinical hold. And you submit to us again. You submit a complete response, comes to us, and at this moment, another cycle of 30 days starts. And we go again. The only good thing about this is I don't need to request another team. We have the team already in place. So schedule the meeting, figure out, and in another 30 days, we'll tell you if you are off hold or we can continue on clinical hold. And this is what my reviewers do. Now, you have the reason of you can appeal your decision. If we told you in clinical hold that you don't believe, it's there, the alternative to appeal it. And there is a process that is called dispute resolution, that you can go one step higher to try to resolve the clinical hold. Some of my best practices, 2 minutes I will borrow. Best practices. Although not required, we love to have a cover letter. Tell us the history. We like to read. The 1571 should submit everything, but we love to see what are the elements in your program. What are you going to do? Especially contact phone number, alternate phone number. And if you have an email, we really these days communicates more than email than by phone. So if you can do it, include that. Try to have it organized. Assure the safety of the subjects. And that scientific information is there. And for email communication, you need to set up a secure email with the agency. Currently, there is a pilot going on that we might be able to fax you from our computers, so it's going to be secure. But until that gets in place, we need you to have a secure email. Not required, but it's nice to have one protocol in your initial IND submission, because if anything goes wrong, we can address that. If you submit 2 protocols, maybe the second one is not safe and the whole IND goes on clinical hold. So it's possible to submit only one. I cannot emphasize more the second bullet. We have a great group of people that are the project managers who really are your conduit to talk to the review division. Talk to them, they will communicate with you, you communicate with them, and you will get all the information from them. Be available for discussion and consider a pre-IND consultation, as my former colleague said before. Hey, 2 minutes where? We included here a series of most common, frequently asked questions. Come in. She can come here.
Wrap up on this slide, and then we need to move on. I'm sorry, Judit.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judit.